Second, to approve the minutes from March 13th, 2018.
Approve Staley.
Second, Nitzert.
I have a motion to approve the minutes. All in favor say yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Yes. Thank you. At this time, we're going to start with Chapter 57 updates with Dustin Hanson, Landfill Superintendent. Mr. Hanson, go ahead.
Thank you. Afternoon or evening, I should say. I'll try not to leave anything out, but I'll try to be quick as well. We also have a couple of team members here, Jessica Sexy, our Sustainability Coordinator, and Diane Best, Assistant City Attorney. I want to give a brief overview of our current system. I know there's obviously a few new counselors, just kind of a brief, and a few of you probably have not been to the landfill or have done a full tour, so just a brief overview of our system. The City of Sioux Falls owns and operates the sanitary landfill. We service 5 counties, Turner, Lincoln, Lake, McCook, Minnehaha, population base of about 260,000. Average ton per year is anywhere from 170,000 to 180,000 of MSW. We do have life expectancy through almost 2080, so quite a bit of life left. We do have a total of 800 acres, and about 400 acres of that is permitted for MSW garbage. We also own and operate, we own the Household Hazardous Waste Facility, which is free to any resident of our 5-county service area. We have a contractor that operates that for us, and we take in almost 2 million pounds of household hazardous waste each year. And we also take electronics completely free, again, to the residents. Current collection system, we have 18 licensed private solid waste haulers. Not all of them pick up waste in Sioux Falls. We have surrounding communities that some just primarily do those communities. Just a couple things on the license. Each hauler is licensed through the City of Sioux Falls. 1 good Packer truck, proof of insurance, $100 license fee. We do have 2 licensed private MRFs in Sioux Falls that process the single stream that come to their doors. We do have 1 waste transfer station that we license, and that is in Lincoln County. And it is an open market system. It means you can basically pick any hauler you want to service your residential. The Solid Waste Planning Board is the largest planning board in the city, 15 members, 5 representatives, 1 from each county that we service, 3 citizen reps, 1 waste hauler, 1 recycling industry representative, 1 commercial business representative, 1 multi-housing representative, landfill superintendent, myself, sustainability coordinator, and our environmental manager. So to kind of get on with Chapter 57 ordinances, it was an initiative voted on in 2017 by the Solid Waste Planning Board, and basically it was to do a general cleanup of Chapter 57. It's been a while, but we've done our due diligence. We formed a committee, an ordinance review subcommittee. And within that, there were 6 members that made up that committee, and they met 4 times on this to go through. Initially, city staff went through the ordinance and did some general cleanup of those ordinances. And just to note that it was unanimously passed to move these ordinances changes to council for approval. And you were given a red line version of the ordinance changes. You were also given a summary list of some of the changes. I've just highlighted a few today. We can go through any one of those. Like I said, myself, Diane, or Jessica are ready to answer questions. But like I said before, it was a general cleanup of the ordinance. It had been a while since there was a general cleanup of this. Certain definitions were added, like we highlight the Public Works Director has authority to approve certain things. There was no definition for that. Basically just to be consistent across the board. A couple highlights here of a few of the changes. Industrial waste, we added a definition for that. Industrial waste is not considered MSW. It could be, for an example, a waste stream, the Raven that's in town produces a lot of film plastic that can't be recycled. It's got fiber mesh in it mixed with plastic. So what the hauler can do is actually submit an exempt form to pull that off of, to minus that from their recycling calculations. So we added that into the definition of Chapter 57. Another thing that we did, and this is another thing that you'll hear tonight at City Council, we have a resolution to waive the leaf drop-off fees this year as a pilot study. But within this ordinance, we rewrote the language that we could charge up to $3 per car. If it's approved tonight for it to go to free, then potentially we could go back to the $3. Just a couple other things that we added in here. Byproducts deposited at the landfill. We currently extract our landfill gas and sell it to POET ethanol. That's generated over $16 million over the last 10 years. Other things that we do is we shred our own wood waste, and we sell that to POET ethanol as well. One thing we did add in here, and it's in state law, is to accept bicycles and donate them back to nonprofit organizations. We've had several requests over the years to do that, so we wrote that into the ordinance here. Lastly, the thing we highlighted was the requirement of identification on the hauling trucks within Sioux Falls. Right now, there's a minimum of a 3-inch requirement of their name or logo on the truck. We are going to change that to a minimum of 6 inches, and that require that to be on both sides of the truck. So with that, hopefully that wasn't too quick, but I'll open it up to questions, and we're here to answer them.
Councilor Neitzer, and then Councilor Staley.
Dustin, what's the driver of changing the lettering size on the trucks?
I think the biggest driver is our staff at the landfill. The commercial hauling trucks use an unattended scale, so a lot of times it's hard to see those labels or logos on the trucks. It's also, we have a lot of residents that will call in and say, I had a white garbage truck, I'm not sure who it is, I couldn't see the logo or the identifying name, so that's the biggest driver.
Okay, thanks.
Councilor Staley.
So right now, this $3 per passenger car, that's what it is now?
It's basically $3 for passenger car, pickup truck, or single axle trailer.
So you're waiving the fee, or you said you're leaving this in here so you can reinstate it if you need to?
Tonight, we'll present a resolution to waive the fee for 2018 as a pilot study. In this ordinance, we wrote it to where we could charge up to $3 during the time that those leaf sites are open.
So why are you doing a pilot study?
Basically, we want to do the pilot study to see if our volume increases, and then we will go back and evaluate the financials to see if it works within our current tipping fee model.
And how does this impact that thing? You're still going to be giving the free pass?
Free pass? It won't impact that at all. We will still do the free pass like we've done in previous years.
I am very interested in some dialogue that I've had from conversations with citizens, and Mark Cotter's been involved, but you said we have 61 garbage hauler, or 18 waste haulers?
18.
18. So tell us publicly where we're going here with siphoning off quadrants of the city. What would that be called when you say waste management? You will go to the northwest.
I don't think we're going anywhere right now. We will hope to present a solid waste master plan later this year, and there is a piece in that master plan that focuses on organized collection.
Yeah, because I'm not sure the garbage haulers are real excited about that piece. Are you getting feedback from them?
Yes, we talk about it regularly at our planning boards, and it's a long process.
Right, and I think it would hurt free enterprise as well. I'm only limited to one garbage hauler where I live. Is that kind of how it looks?
Potentially.
Yeah. There's
it's one of those things we really have to evaluate, and not necessarily here to talk about that today, but
you're here.
I am here.
So I just think it's good for the public to know that this thing could be coming, And I, just like we had that few years ago when we were going to charge them at assurance bond thing, remember how that came out?
Yes.
Yeah, that didn't really go anywhere. So we just want to have affordable garbage service for all of our people and let free market work as well.
Councilor Brecky?
Along that same line, how many haulers, how many licensed haulers do we have now?
We have 18 that basically pick up residential garbage. We have almost 27 that, and some are just picking up construction and demolition waste. As far as how many are in Sioux Falls, from what we're told on their applications, about 13.
So I'm guessing one of the things you're looking at as you explore, other options, like what you talked about dividing into quadrants, has to do with all these big trucks on the residential streets. Is that one of the things you're trying to
There's a number
take a
of
load off?
There's a number of things to evaluate when you look at organized collection. And like I said, it's a long process. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. But we hear both sides of it, the free enterprise, and we also hear I have, numerous amounts of trucks on my streets. So I think it's time to start those discussions.
And I think I think you'd probably agree, it gets even more complicated when you got 13, 18 haulers. See, a lot of cities have 2, 3, or 4, but then they don't have the quality of service and the low rates because they don't have the competition. So I understand the balance that you're going to be working with, and I'll be interested, as you work through that process. Just to give you a little backdrop on that, I mean, there was a time when we had virtually no regulations at all, and anybody who had a truck could get a garbage hauler's license. And that was a very difficult process to go through. And when we did that, we were faced with kind of what you're faced again here, and that was we wanted someone who was willing enough to invest it enough to actually make it a legitimate business and not just a fly-by-night operation, and and add some quality dimensions to it. But we did recognize that we had a unique opportunity in Sioux Falls because there was so much competition that we had some of the best rates ever with some of the best service ever. And I think that for years it's been that bittersweet experience. I know, Waste Management put a lot of pressure on the city for years because it wanted to do what it does in other cities, curbside. They want to be able to haul it on curbside on Tuesdays. And yet we have garbage haulers who will run up and pull it out and bring it. We have all this extra service and extra perks because we have all of that competition. So I hope that you'll kind of keep that backdrop in mind and try to continue to achieve that balance because we never did, really go for, getting the 1 or 2, major providers. We have always had really good service at really low cost. And so I hope there's a creative solution for you out there somewhere, but I do get what, get the issue, with those big heavy trucks. And I mean, they experimented with the heavy trucks and the satellite trucks and all that over the years too. But the bottom line is, after all these years, you still have really good service with really good competition. So there's lots of options. And I hope that you'll kind of, try to build that into the mix as you negotiate this.
Councilor Neitzer.
I just had one other question. In the trailer courts, and this is just, again, I hear from citizens as well, and one of the things I've noted, and it's just a myopic view, so I'd like a little bigger picture view from you. Do you believe that, or are you aware that like trailer courts seem to have like higher restrictions for moving trash out of the trailer courts than, I've been helping a lady who needs some help empty out her trailer. And she has the most toughest restrictions on her in that trailer court. I'm bringing stuff from her place over to my house where they'll take anything. And it just occurred to me, that in places like that where they need the most leniency because they don't have the wherewithal to get a couch out or a chair out, they appear to have the least. And I don't know if that's just dependent on the trailer court operator or if it's kind of that in general. But I was considering exploring the opportunity of like a free dumpster at, moving it around the city from trailer court to help them get some of that stuff out of their places. Just your comments and your thoughts on that.
I'm not sure of any restrictions. I don't know if Diane can answer that, but I will say this, during Project Nice and Keep, If there is trailer parks in those areas, 3 years ago, we started offering up free dumpsters for those trailer parks. So those residents could dump waste in those dumpsters and we would pick it up for free.
I heard about that, and I thought that was wonderful, and that's kind of where I got the idea of perhaps expanding it, just trailer court by trailer court in some sort of an offshoot of Project Nice, because it is difficult for those people. A lot of times they don't have vehicles, issues, of getting those big things, even to the recycle plant, or, how to get rid of an old couch or an old chair. And then their living quarters become very overcrowded.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something we can look into further.
Thank you. I realize I was a little off track, but appreciate your comments.
Diane Best, legal counsel for the landfill. I just wanted to comment that there absolutely is not a city ordinance that would require, that would be more stringent with regard to either recycling or trash removal at trailer parks. And I think Dustin pretty well answered it. So if it does seem more restrictive, or if it is more restrictive in a trailer park, it may be that the individual hauler is, doing something to require. And I'm not saying that they're being mean-spirited in any way, but maybe they are saying, well, you have to have recycling here. Maybe they're requiring to separate out these things. I don't know exactly what's going on in the trailer park that you're talking about, but it may be that one hauler is more restrictive and one's more lenient. I don't know that anybody's breaking any rules either way, but it's possible that that's the case.
Right, and I know it's something I need to explore more broadly, but I'm wondering if it's, the haulers themselves in conjunction with the owner of the trailer court. But if more than one of them are doing it that way, I think that it might be a place where, again, the city could offer some help, because I think those are places where help would really be appreciated.
I don't think that the team we're working with on these ordinances at least has had any comment from people that the trailer parks are being handled in a more restrictive way. But if that is the case, it'll be interesting to see if it's the haulers that are being more restrictive, the trailer park owners, or if it's an isolated trailer park.
Yep.
So that's something to look at, yes.
Thank you. Councilor Neitzer?
I know this is way off track, but we kind of got on it, and I want to throw in my 2 cents. The one side of this whole garbage hauler discussion is the garbage haulers, but please, as you're looking at this and you're looking at bringing us a master plan, look at the citizens, because I can tell you most of my neighbors would probably tar and feather me if I told them that their preferred hauler will no longer be a choice, and we're going to make them use X company over here. A lot of people are very wedded to their garbage hauler. It's kind of a big deal. So there's other models. When I lived in Minnesota, and I don't know if, I'm sure this presents a lot of challenges for solvency for certain companies too, but like in my community, they made it so like on a certain part of town, you can only come through on Thursday. On another side of town, and there was Friday or whatever. So at least then they were all just rumbling down one day of the week. But I have a sense that in South Dakota, if you tell somebody that this is going to be your hauler and you don't get any other choice, there's going to be an uproar. So just tread lightly. That's all I'll say.
Councilor Staley?
Well, yes, and if you have 18 companies and you're going to divide it up, I'm afraid that you're going to run the little guy out of business, which I'm absolutely opposed to. And the thing I'd say is, if you would go to that model, then is there a price fixing that happens? Then you would say to those garbage haulers, you will charge this much? Because I would think across the board, everybody's going to be charged the same amount, right? There would be no more competition.
Again, there's a lot of different models, but again, there's a lot of due diligence and a lot of community input that we have to have. Obviously, the city council, everybody, and it may come out that we stick with the current system or we go to a different system. But again, it's time to start those discussions and look at it, because we do have those concerned citizens.
Right, and I'm only bringing this up because I've had 2 citizens who asked about it, and Mark Cotter has indicated this could be coming. So I'd rather have us be able to start talking about this and letting you know how we feel about it now than waiting until you've formulated an ordinance and then we have to try to dismantle it. Because I always say it's easier to crack an egg open than it is to rip the head off of a little baby chick.
Totally understand, and all good points.
Thank you. DJ?
I just want to jump in. I want to make sure everyone knows we are not proposing this right now. The master plan is still in the evaluation mode. It's a study going on. So this feedback is great. We'll take that back, but just want to make sure that this is not something we're bringing forward at this point. So thanks for the feedback, everyone.
Thank you. I just have one observation before we move. You know, I miss the days when you could back into the pit and scrounge for good furniture, good engine parts. Those were the days of the real landfill. And I'm disappointed that my grandchildren are not going to get to see that. But thank you for your presentation. We're going to move on now for a presentation on natural gas.
Say, Mr. Chair, you could have them, I think we can do, is it called dumpster diving? Is that allowed in our city?
No, that is illegal.
Oh,
I'm not going to teach them that. We're going to move on to natural gas fire pits downtown. A presentation by council members Erickson and Neitzer. Presentation approximately 10 minutes.
I'll be brief, thank you. I'm going to move these back out. Thank you, City Councilor Christine Erickson at large. Presenting today on natural gas fire pits downtown. This started back in March, April timeframe, where I was contacted by a constituent who had a question about having a fire pit downtown. A gas fire pit, I should say. So based on that, we got a group of people together. I want to show you some pictures. The fire pit that I'm referring to is at Josiah's. However, this will impact all of downtown. I am just using this fire pit as the example, as this was the constituent that came forward to discuss. As you can see in the pictures, you can see the arrows where it's at. It's behind the planter boxes. There's another arrow in the upper right-hand corner that does show it's clearly off the sidewalk. And then another picture showing that it is clearly marked not only on the fire pit, but also on the wall. If you look in the upper right picture, you can see it on the wall as well, and I'll get to how that transformed here in a little bit. So on May 21st, myself, Councilor Neitzer, we reached out to meet with different representatives from the administration. In this meeting, there was Fire and Rescue, the Mayor's Office, Planning and Development Services, City Attorney Office, Public Works, Councilor Neitzer and myself, Howman Investment Group, as well as Downtown Sioux Falls. When I say represented, there was a person from each of this. This was not 40 people in a room or a full department, but this was who came together to collaborate to talk about what is the issue and what are we looking to do. So upon that meeting, we had some good feedback, dialogue in regards to the fire pit that was put in. Grant Howman, who will speak later and does own, the investment group does own Josiah's, had put this fire pit in, gas line fire pit, with the appropriate steps. He got a building permit, he walked through all of that, and then later was told that this is not allowed downtown. And so that's why we sat down and met, is why isn't it allowed downtown? And so the administration did get together, these representatives, and said, let us meet and put some pen to the paper. And so we welcomed that. We stepped back. And the next couple of slides we'll go through is the recommendations from the administration. So the proposed requirements for unlisted outdoor fireplace in the public right-of-way. Number one, it has to be fueled by natural gas. Two, protected from vehicles. As you saw in the previous pictures, there are those big metal planters on there. Three, construction so that it cannot be tipped over. Installation must meet the mechanical and engineering requirements. 3-foot clear space around the appliance must be maintained. Should only be allowed in central business district per the ordinance, not allowed anywhere else. Encroachments must be easily removed, no permanent structures. Site inspection by fire and community development to ensure all parameters are being met. The next slide is must comply with South Dakota One Call requirements. This one I just want to touch on. That was really our main obstacle for Josiah's when they had put in their gas line fire pit. When that was being constructed, they did have the line go under the sidewalk. And one of the things that was communicated to them was, you're not on South Dakota One Call, what happens? And so Grant did contact South Dakota One Call. He does have his certificate. It is registered, so if there's ever anything that comes up with that, he is registered on the South Dakota One Call, and he has complied with those requirements. Number 10, a procedure as a procedure now for permitting a site plan would be required, identifying specific placement of the fireplace, including dimensions from the nearest objects, also identifying how and what it protects from vehicle traffic. Again, you saw the planters around the other one there. The last two are ones that we had a little reservation with. That is surface and radiant temperatures emitted by the appliance cannot exceed 110 degrees, and 12 must be protected by the appliance so that the flame cannot be gained by general public screens, glass. Therefore, the appliance will not be considered an open flame appliance, but still, we had some reservations with that, as the glass will get hot, the metal surrounding it could get hot, and those are the two that we struggled with. So upon doing this, we started looking around the city to see, do we have these already? As you can see, we have a long-standing history at Great Bear with a wood fire pit there that is enjoyed by all the people that frequent Great Bear. It is an area that people congregate, stay warm, drink their hot chocolate outside, and really just take in the outdoor recreation park there. The other thing is, I'm from Rapid City, and I frequent my hometown. One of my favorite places to go and where we take our kids is Main Street Square. So knowing that I'm there often, seeing my family, we are there for concerts, Easter eggs hunts, you name it, you can see the ice skating. It is a great area and place to congregate. In this area, they do also have gas fire pits as well. You can see in the upper picture, it is circled with an arrow. An up-close picture on the far right side, and the left picture, yes, is downtown Rapid City during the wintertime. It is a magnificent area for people to congregate, and these fire pits are used. So I didn't want to just take the pictures. We reached out to the folks in Rapid City and asked, how does this work for you? How do you do this? What does it look like for you? So what you can see from 1 through 7, these were what Rapid City had communicated with us when we reached out to their departments, that the fire pits are natural gas supplied appliances. In conformance of the manufacturer's specifications, reasonable protection must be provided for the public. You can see on the pictures above what that is to them. The open flame or heat outlets must be maintained clearance to all combustible materials and fire sprinkler heads. The fire department inspection at time of installation and witness the operation of the appliance to determine appropriate settings of the flame. There needs to be a remote emergency gas shutoff located in the area of the appliance and a mushroom-style panic button, and no specific regulations on surface or radiant temperature. They consider a reasonable steps to be taken to limit the contact or burn potential. So they don't give an actual heat index. They really leave it up to interpretation and really common sense for folks that do frequent the gas line fire pit. But it does have the safety protections to extend the patio life and create a vibrant area. The next portion I'm going to turn over to Councilor Neitzer.
Thank you. Our regulatory objective is to enact common sense regulations that protects the public and embraces this opportunity to expand downtown outdoor dining into the spring and fall. We believe this will promote a vibrant and innovative downtown, and we have some potential regulations for discussion purposes. Must be fueled by natural gas. There would be a permit for the initial installation. There'd be a site plan that would be required where you'll show the placement of the fireplace and how you'll protect it from vehicle traffic. That's an operational decision how it would be done, but it could be done with the sidewalk use permit that's used today. You have to fill out a sidewalk use permit if you want to do a bump out or a restaurant seating area outside already. The installation must meet the mechanical and engineering requirements so that essentially you get the permits for natural gas piping like you normally would. Prior to annual use, the inspectors will witness the operation of the appliance and determine the appropriate setting of the flame length. There'd be no permanent structures within a certain distance from the fire pit. That's really open to suggestions, and that's something that we could all talk about. Going on, there's another thing where we could talk about a distance around the appliance must be free and clear of tangible items, chairs, tables, flower pots, particularly when we're talking about flammable materials. The open flame or heat outlets maintain clearance to all combustible materials and fire sprinkler heads, only allowed in downtown. A remote emergency gas shutoff located in the area of the appliance, and I would point out there actually is one at this Josiah's location outside, and then there's also one inside at the origination where the gas piping tees off. It must be protected from vehicles with bollards and planters in the example you saw, and it must be constructed so that it cannot be tipped over. So for example, you might bolt it down to the sidewalk, but it'd be something that you could easily remove and pick up and move if you needed to. Must comply with the South Dakota one call requirements, which we've already discussed. It must be in conformance with the manufacturer's specifications. And then we did have a few other ones that could be discussed. Cannot be permanently affixed to the ground. That would be so you couldn't, let's say, pour a cement footing on the public sidewalk, and then it couldn't be moved. It could be something where you could attach it to the ground, but it could be moved in the event that there was some sort of utility work or some emergency that had to be dealt with. And then the next one would be, and this is where we had a verbiage, and we should be more clear. It would only be allowed in that sidewalk use area, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a concrete bump out. There are some areas downtown where it's not a bump out, but the sidewalk is wide enough that they can do a seating area for their restaurant without an actual bump out. But the intention would be that you don't have a fire pit in the middle of the sidewalk that people are going up and down. You keep it inside of that area. The two that we are not endorsing, again, is that surface and radiant temperature cannot exceed 110 degrees. I believe that number came from it's uncomfortable, but it won't burn. But the problem you run into is that it's not going to provide adequate heat. The whole idea is not just the ambiance, but to extend those seasons, get those shoulder seasons so you can have outdoor dining for a longer period on the front and back on that spring and fall. And then the other one is the flame must be protected by the appliance, with glass, and that again creates that problem of getting enough adequate heat to give enough heat to people, and that they're close enough where they can feel comfortable staying outside. And with that, I think we will open it to questions. And thank you.
So I'll just close if I can, and by saying we are appreciative for the collaborative effort with the administration. They've been great to work with. They provided a lot of great feedback, have really allowed us to dive into areas I didn't realize existed even. And so we're thankful for that information that they've provided. There are some people from downtown Sioux Falls, as well as Grant Howman is here and can answer any specific questions to this particular fire pit, and really has become an expert almost on gas line fire pits, as well as in administration. So I will stand down for questions. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Before we ask questions, the building owner, Grant Hallman, is here, and also the fire marshal is here, and they can answer questions if you have them.
Good.
So, Councilor Staley.
So the question I have, Councilor Erickson, is why are we having this, what happened, why are we having this discussion?
So the reason why Councilor Neitzert and I are bringing this forward is we are asking for your guidance. We are asking this committee to help us form the ordinance, help us look at what we should bring forward next.
But was there a concern raised?
They are not allowed to use the fire pit. They were told they cannot have the fire pit on, and that...
told that by whom?
I believe it was Adam Roach had communicated with them, and I'll let Grant speak to that because he had the conversation with them. But they did install this fire pit, this gas line fire pit. They did go through South Dakota one call. They have the shutoffs, all of that. And then it was communicated to them that they could not have that. In my research, I did not see anything that says you can't do it. And so we are essentially trying to give some guidelines and some feedback with your input to form an ordinance that would have downtown Adam Roach as well as the fire marshal comfortable with having fire pits downtown.
So they're saying they like what you gave them?
They
looked, I was thinking
we have gone back and forth with, they provided their suggestions, we provided this to them, but we are here now asking for guidance and feedback, bringing it to the council and the committee process.
Because I'm not a fire marshal, so that's why I had requested that the fire department be here. I mean, any people who
They were
had
invited to begin with.
people who had concerns would come up and
Yep.
give us direction.
We did provide this presentation to them early on, and we had invited them to be here. TJ from the mayor's office is also here and was involved in those meetings, as well as a handful of others, so.
And then I do have a question about that structure that would be sitting there as like Josiah's. And so I guess the concern would be, I mean, let's equate that to someone having their grill sitting out on the sidewalk. You know, if I got a propane grill or something, and that's sitting out there, and then the business is closed and people are not there, and so we do have vandalism like we've had with sculptures being, you know, destroyed. So would there be any ability for someone to mess with that gas, or, you know, because it's going to have the shut off and stuff, but could someone come and tamper with that, or, okay.
Please step forward, state your name. Thank you.
Grant Howman, partner of Howman Investment Group. There is no way to turn that on because there's a shut off in the building as well as on the unit. So the building would be shut off in the utility room. So the natural gas has a separate shut off inside of the building as well as on the unit.
So that is, when it's not in use at night, it's just going to be like a brick flower
It's going to be a big
bed.
quartz. Yeah, just there's nothing to it. Nobody can do anything. It's an inanimate object. It's actually safer than those propane tanks that you see sitting outside on all the sidewalks downtown. Because there's no gas that's flowing through the line. The gas pressure is about 7 pounds, I believe, that flows through there. It's shut off in the building. So there's no pressurized tank sitting on the sidewalk being abandoned. It's just an inanimate object.
So during the daytime when it's being used and at night, would there be any mandate to have some kind of a staff member there? I mean, is it going to be okay to have that thing going if nobody's outside?
Well, on Josiah's, there'll be waiters and waitresses coming and going in and out of the structure all the time and watching.
And have you thought, I mean, so let's say that just in essence, you could say, well, we're going to have this thing and no one will be out there with it. Could it be sitting out there going for an hour without anybody? Let's say there's nobody to wait on, and it's
well, I mean, you know, it's going to be restaurants and bars and different things, and there's going to always be people coming in and out with Josiah. I mean, the owner's there.
And I mean, I guess like if you're operating a gas grill and you had it out sitting in the driveway and you just let it go all day and nobody was out there. Not that that's going to happen. I'm just looking at the worst case scenario.
Well, it's the same principles behind the propane heaters. I mean, the propane heaters are allowed and are sitting everywhere downtown. And I'm not trying to eliminate the propane heaters. I'm trying to add another structure that to me is far safer, doesn't operate under pressure, doesn't have to be taken in refillable tanks, can't be tipped over by the wind. I'm actually proposing a much safer, more operable unit than what's currently being used.
I understand, but there's nothing that's going to mandate there's some supervision of it then. So within the ordinance then?
I'm not sure what type of supervision would be required.
Well,
it's just a gas fire pit. There's no sparks. It's not flammable items that are floating through the air. You know, there's no wood bits coming out of it or anything. It's just natural gas. It's just like a candle, I suppose, out sitting on a concrete structure.
I understand. So there's a flame going.
Right, and it's set back to the center. So it's about 4 feet square, 3 feet square, and the flame's in the center of it.
No, I get that. But let's just say in my own house, in my own yard, if I could, let's say, put that up against the sidewalk, have something like that, and I had it there, and then I just went in the house and it was going. I don't know that.
But there's, I mean, the owners coming in and out of the building, there's staff coming in and out of the building. You know, if they go in front of some of the bar owners that want to do this as well, they have staff coming and going. I mean, I look at it this way, is at one point we decided to do the pavilion. We've decided to do Phillips to Falls. We closed the loop. We've done the river walkway. We've done the arts walk. We have continually grown our downtown and made it appealing for other people to come to our community. And it kind of really takes effect with what Terry was saying, is we got to continually evolve our downtown to bring people to our community. And what this does is it helps businesses stay open maybe a month and a half longer in the fall and maybe open up a month sooner in the spring. And that helps retail, it helps the restaurants, the bars,
No,
the
I get that, but I think even like with fire pits, we have kind of a mandate of attendance to that. And I hear you saying people are coming and going. I'm just telling you, this is something, as I'm listening to this, I'm thinking, just to make sure that, let's say, business is slow, nobody's sitting on the patio, and everybody's inside, then does that thing, it still continues to go and nobody's coming out there?
But there's nothing flammable around it. That's where I'm not understanding. There's nothing flammable that's even close to the unit.
But what about inside the unit?
No, it's all steel and
There's no, it's not like a gas grill?
No, nothing like a gas grill. It's all stainless steel
There's
components.
no flame, though, within it? I mean, where does the heat source come off from?
It's just a natural gas piece that's all UL rated. I better say that right, Kurt? It's all UL rated. So this particular unit is made by Jasper Stone Company, and this unit is all steel and quartz, and then there's stainless steel piping, and the flame comes out of it. There's no, there's no plastic. There's no
there is a
flammable.
flame. There's a flame.
There's no flammable parts.
But there's a flame inside of it.
Inside,
You said the flame comes up.
Yeah, the natural gas comes out of a steel pipe, and then it's dispersed.
Well, I'm going to have to. I'll have to go down and look at it.
Yeah, I'd be happy to take it apart and look at it. But if you look inside of it, there's literally nothing inside of it. It's a steel hose with a circular item with holes in it that the natural gas flows up and it goes through the lava rock. So it's much different than a gas grill, actually, because there's no plastic knobs. There's nothing flammable on the unit. Nothing at all.
Could you? But so you couldn't like cook something on it.
I don't know why you would, but it's not really made for that. It's just made as a kind of a structure to heat. It's ambiance. It's something to warm yourself on when you have the parade of lights or different events downtown. So,
Councilor Staley, I would suggest you take a look. It'd probably be the best way to explain it.
Yes, I will look. And by the way, we're still okay. We'll have time to eat.
I'm not worried about that. 6:30. Councilor Neitzer?
Yeah, I'll go quick because I know you do have to allow public input as well.
Yes, sir.
I would just make sure to just throw out as far as those concerns, I do get that. I would mention that there are many public restaurants that do have fireplaces, for example, in them, and they don't have, an armed, or they don't have like necessarily somebody that has to sit, stand and watch it. Somebody can walk by the fireplace. And that's why another discussion point was having a distance from, again, you have got the restaurant, let's say the seating area, maybe you have a regulation that says it has to be 3 feet into that, so that if you're just a pedestrian walking down the street, there's no way that you could just tumble into it, as an example. I'm using a ridiculous, but if you're just a pedestrian just traversing the street, that you don't have a fire pit right in the middle of where you're trying to walk. If you can imagine like a cordoned off area where you got your restaurant, if it's in, and then it's maybe 2 or 3 feet from every chair or whatever else, so there's a distance,
This is actually so there's about 10 feet from the building, which is a masonry non-combustible building, and then it's 3 feet off of the main sidewalk. So this is in the middle of our patio of that, or the bump out, I should say, which the city allows us to use. And then we have to provide, if you look at the application for the sidewalk, liability is actually primary liability for those sidewalks that we sign that piece of paper for become the liability of the building owner.
Thank you. Councilor Brecky?
Just a question for Greg and Christine. The reason that you limit it to the downtown is because this is just allowing it in the right-of-way.
Yes.
Because I was thinking of places like the convention center or other places in town that might want this. That would be a different issue.
It'd be another conversation.
And so you're just saying, as far as the right-of-way goes, that's the only place you could think of where there would really be a need for that.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
I love the idea, by the way.
Thank you.
I think that, that just what you're trying to do to create that overall downtown experience, this will just add to that.
Thank you for your presentation. At this time, any other discussion by the committee? We'll have public input at this time. Please limit your discussion to 5 minutes and only those things that have been on the agenda. Thank you. Please state your name. And
Joe Batchelor with Downtown Sioux Falls Incorporated. I won't reiterate any of the other points that have already been discussed, and I've written all of you an email explaining DTSF's position on this. I just want to speak to your point, Councilor Staley. Vail, Colorado has about half a dozen of these in the public realm that are constantly, the flame is constantly on, I believe 24/7. And so there is, there's precedence for this being done in communities where it's in the public realm, it's done safely, and they're unattended, there's flames constantly going. I mean, I think the worst that has happened is that perhaps someone has burned a finger or something like that. But just wanted to let you know that there are other communities that are doing this where they don't necessarily have to have somebody standing by constantly. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Any other public input on this subject?
Sierra Bruce, Sioux Falls. So you might want to get a hold of the fire department here, because they have had cases where people has thrown, I'm sorry, did I push a button here? Where people have thrown cigarettes. Cigarettes will cause an explosion in a fire. So it might be a rare case with the fire department, but they have had cases to where cigarettes were thrown in open flames like that. When you have open fire like that, Wiley's, people around barbecue, around pits that are drunk and have alcohol and drinking people, or narcissists. I mean, that likes flame. And it just takes one person to put a cigarette in there, and what? I think that the fire is really good to look at. When people are into alcohol, people do things like that to get a thrill off of fires. So you got to watch that whenever you decide that you should put this fire pit right there where alcohol is being served and people are being intoxicated. I just spoke to the guy here with the fire department. He said it is rare cases, but they have had cases to where this kind of stuff has happened. So and I don't know how much it will cost if someone would throw a cigarette in there, and then the fire department will come, how much of the taxpayers' dollars would that cost when this could have been prevented in the first place? I don't know if he has the analysis with him, or he has to pull up the analysis on how many times that he went to fires like this within the city. And I know it might sound stupid, but there are cases where people have stuck cigarettes in there, and explosions have had happened here in the city.
Thank you. Any other public input? Seeing none?
I'm just looking for your guidance on this. So as we move forward, if I can, Mr. Chair, the reason why Greg and I brought this to the committee is because it wasn't ready for prime time quite yet. And so we wanted to bring forward the suggestions from the administration, some of our concerns, some of our suggestions, what we've seen in other communities, and really engage your thoughts. And so I'll turn it back to you and ask for your guidance if Greg and I can certainly continue to meet with the administration and move forward, but we're just looking for additional buy-in from the council as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Brecky?
I would just suggest that you move forward, put it into ordinance form. It seems to me, I can't think of any other feedback that I would offer as far as the recommendations that you have. And I like the one with leaving the heat of the fire up to the discretion of the fire marshal at final inspection or something like that. But I would suggest you go forward with it, and then I don't know whether it would be necessary to put it on an informational before you put it on for first read, but it just kind of depends on how many counselors are involved. But at a maximum, I would, you could do that if you wanted to, but if you spread it around and people didn't need that extra information, why, I think you could just go first read. But since we're only a partial group, it would seem to just be have it at an informational after you've got it in ordinance form and go through with it.
Councilor Staley?
Yeah, I'm going to go look at it, but I think an informational would be good, just so you kind of keep it out there and let all the council members have a hear once you've got something more formalized.
Thank you. Any other business for the committee? Seeing no further business, meeting is over.